Welcome to the Sustainable Success Show, where we share real-world ideas, strategies, and systems to help you build success that lasts in business and life. Each episode delivers practical insights you can apply immediately without burnout, chaos, or short-term fixes that don't scale. At the foundation is emotional intelligence and effective communication, how you lead yourself and how you connect with others across personalities, generations, and cultures, because that's where trust, engagement, and performance are created. I'm Christopher Salem, your host, and this is where sustainable success becomes your competitive advantage. Hi, welcome to the Sustainable Success Show. My name is Chris Salem, your host. If you are a first-time viewer here, welcome. We want to let everybody know you are in the right place when it comes to raising your level of sustainable success to the next level, either on an individual, personal, or a business level. Again, you found us here not only on YouTube, but we're also on Spotify, Apple, and of course, our Facebook page at Sustainable Success 2017. Now, recently, we went over to a new format back at the beginning of this year. We used to be an hour-long show. We've been around for almost 9 years. Yes, it's hard to believe. But now you could actually watch the video portion of the show in our new half-an-hour format. And we highly encourage you to not only check out our new format, but even our old format going back almost 9 years ago. We've had over 500 episodes to date with this show. And again, thanks to all you loyal listeners that we've had since our Voice America days when we were with Voice America. With that being said, you could also follow us on Apple Music as well as iHeart as well. So you have a lot of places to access the show. Today's show is being brought to you today by Alumni Direct. Alumni Direct is a new social media community platform dedicated to bringing alumni together from all different generational types and an opportunity to meet new people for the first time. Now, it is a membership program taking out all the noise out of social media. You get to generate genuine, authentic relationships with the people you choose to interact with. If you'd like some more information about Alumni Direct, check them out at alumnidirect.com. That's alumnidirect.com. Well, we got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about simplifying learning to strengthen teams, a leader's approach to sustainable success. I am so excited when it comes to team and leadership development, and we got the right person in play for you to listen today for insights. So make sure to take notes or get out your AI tool to record. You're going to be hearing from Nicholas Hayduk. He is the founder of Engineered Code and a 7-time Microsoft Business Application MVP with over 15 years of experience designing tailored software solutions to help organizations get more from their Microsoft Power Platform. From custom sites to complex integrations, their workforces focuses on creating systems that are both powerful and easy to use. Now, at Engineered Code, they provide consulting services to help organizations design, build, and support solutions on Power Pages, Dynamics 365, Power Apps, and Power Automate, whether you need a full implementation, targeted expertise, or mentoring for your in-house team. Now, in addition to Nicholas's consultant services, his company are the proud creators of ecLearn, an LMS built natively on Microsoft Dataverse and fully integrated with Dynamics 365, Power BI, and Power Automate. They designed ecLearn for organizations that were struggling with disconnected training systems, manual compliance tracking, and lack of integration with their Microsoft tools. With ecLearn, training, certifications, and learning analytics all happen inside your Microsoft environment. No extra systems, no manual workarounds. And without further ado, we welcome Nicholas Hayduk to the show. Nicholas, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, it's really great to be with you today, and I really appreciate the invitation to talk to you and your audience today.
Yes, we are so excited. And let's talk a little bit about, the foundation, what you're going to talk about today when it comes to strengthening teams. Maybe this perhaps, Nicholas, would be your own experience with Microsoft and kind of what led you up here today with what you're doing with Engineered Code and how you're helping other organizations take a better approach to sustainable success.
Yeah, today I'm also going to be focused on learning, right? It's a topic that you don't have to do too much convincing when you're meeting with organizations. Not too many are going to dispute the fact that learning, ongoing professional development, all of those things are important. So it's usually a pretty easy conversation to say, hey, like, your team needs to be doing this. The challenge is doing it correctly, doing it in a way that is sustainable for the long term. And so that's why we felt, it was kind of important when we identified this kind of gap in the ecosystem, specifically within the Microsoft ecosystem. That's why we felt it was so important to kind of fill that gap and to have a training system that was not a new silo for your data, not a new place to do an integration, but the data lives where all of the other data already exists.
I love it. And if you can now paint a picture, like, for the listeners, and how learning, to strengthen teams using this type of approach that you've integrated, how this is going to really help them, only not for the short term, but the long term with what they're doing and helping their teams to grow and thus impact, the experiences they create for their clients and so on.
Yeah. The big thing we see with training is that it kind of ebbs and flows in organizations, and someone will maybe someone new comes into the organization and really has this kind of really wants to push. Hey, we need training. We need this professional development. And so there's this kind of big push to have it happen. Often they'll kind of install some sort of third-party system where the training can be taken, can be tracked, can be reviewed. But because that system is just some like extra piece of software that's on a new tab on their browser, some different application, once that initial push is over, it often can get forgotten about. And that's why we kind of really believe so much in having that data reside in the same place where people are working every day already. So, our solution is meant for organizations that have kind of embraced the Microsoft ecosystem. They're using Outlook, they're using, Teams, or that sort of ecosystem, right? So rather than it being like, hey, there's this other thing, oh, right, I got to go do my training, I got to log into their system. It's like, no, it's right there. It's right there. It's in the same place. And so we just really find it helps with the adoption of training when it's not some extra system that you have to go to. And then we can get into all the kind of the technical benefits of not having integrations, but just having it top of mind for users to have access to, whether it's safety training, HR training, again, technical training, all these bits and pieces that are super important for people to stay up to date on, having it in the systems where they're already working is a big deal.
I 100% agree, because, if it's something else that they're not familiar with, that they're not using, it's out of sight, out of mind. And that data is so critical. And now when it's now central to the systems they're already using, they've already been consistent with, so they're used to using it. This is, through that repetition of now accessing this information, they can use it more to their advantage in what they're doing. So, how important is it with training? And I always see training, sometimes it's not one and done. It's one of those things that, again, that when it's dripped over time, it tends to stick more. There's more accountability. If you want to share anything with that,
Yeah, absolutely. And especially in the more heavily regulated industries where there's, compliance and legal and all that sort of stuff. So and that's one of the things we love about the way that our system works, is that there's all these tools within the Microsoft system to keep people engaged and keeping people up to date, and having the ability to kind of create these little kind of morsels of training. It doesn't all have to be a giant course that you sit down and takes a whole week of your year to do a course. It can be these kind of smaller morsels, and the fact that, hey, I'm in Teams, I see this notification pop up. Oh, right, I got to take that course, and off you can go to our system, kind of right within all that experience. So for sure, I think that's very important.
Absolutely. And like you said, I mean, with the type of systems that you're involved with helping organizations, a lot of times, what is that return on investment? And I always feel that data is king, right? And it's what you do with the data that's always most important. Like you said, now that it's more accessible, where they don't know, they don't have to go to some other, platform that's not in alignment with their Microsoft system. Now they can now use that information, and now they can begin to track things better in terms of how it's, providing a return on investment. If you can share any insights from that perspective, and how that is very important, short and long term.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, our product wouldn't, there's it might be a little bit hyperbole, but there's millions of learning management systems out there. And maybe that's a bit of extreme, but there's probably thousands of these pieces of software. And so what makes our product unique is not that someone can sign in and take a course. That like I said, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of those types of products out there. What makes our product unique is that data lives in the same place that all of your other business data does. So the classic use case for the kind of the Microsoft Power Platform, the Dataverse database that we put our data into, is a CRM system. So that's where you're tracking your opportunities. That's where you're tracking your sales. That might be where you're tracking your customer service, so help cases and support cases, those types of things. All of that data is in that one central place. And then if you augment that with your employees' training data, or and another thing that makes us a little bit more unique is that we not only target internal audiences, so people are often thinking, well, how do I train my employees? That's great. That's super important. But also, how do I train my external audiences? Do I have partners? Do I have distribution partners that I have to deal with? Am I a nonprofit that has a significant volunteer portion of my organization? They need to come in and they need to kind of go through the certifications. The original kind of genesis of our application was from that nonprofit sector, where they had a large contingent of volunteers that needed training. And I said, oh, great, I'll go find the learning management system that works with the Power Platform, and we'll get that installed for you. Lo and behold, I went and looking, and that didn't exist. So that's kind of where the idea came from. But it's about training those kind of external and internal audiences, and having all of that data into a single system. And then you have your IT department. They're dealing with one technology, so they're able to use all that existing knowledge, all that existing training that they've done on these systems already, and they can just leverage that existing knowledge and experience. So we find that the big challenge with some of these other applications is just like the learning curve that it takes, say, the administrators to learn all this stuff. So having it all within that kind of familiar ecosystem is a huge deal.
That leads me to the next question. How, again, this impacts an organization, starting from the inside out. And it always has to start with, they have to have clarity, not only individually, but as a team and as an organization, but also how that impacts them working together, their culture. Share with us how, again, simplifying learning can help do that and bring more unity and more swift, allowing them to make swifter decisions and take better calculated risks.
Yeah, it's really no secret that no one loves doing training, or it's unlikely. We don't run into a lot of people who are like, hey, give us more training. It often will feel like extra work that gets in the way of their quote unquote real job. So by giving the employees kind of this less frictionless kind of area to go in and kind of get it done quickly, easily, certainly builds up the engagement. And then once the employees have the opportunity to take the training and starting to see the value of it, then you get that buy-in. But yeah, it can be a little bit difficult at the beginning. If this is new for an organization, getting that buy-in can be tricky. So making it something that's familiar is certainly something that kind of reduces that friction at the beginning for sure.
Wow. Yeah. So true. So true. And what do you find, with learning, simplifying learning, as we're, here we are in 2026. Are there any particular industries that you're finding that are more receptive now, seeing the benefits long-term, utilizing something like, what you're doing within, through your engineer code company, the benefits long-term? Are there certain industries like you said, ones that are more likely to deal with compliance things and to be up to speed there? Which ones are more likely to kind of embrace it?
Yeah, definitely the regulated industries, because if they're regulated, they're probably already doing something in this space. It's not something that they can really ignore. So whether that's mining, oil and gas, kind of the energy sector is a big one. Healthcare, transportation. So like whether it's kind of airports, trucking, like those types of industries. So definitely the industries where continuing learning is not it's not an option, it's a requirement. Certainly those are the industries where there's certainly, you know, people have accepted it, and it's not there's not nearly the pushback from anyone because people are kind of used to it at this point for sure.
Got it. No, it makes sense. Totally makes sense. Another thing I wanted to talk about is, with this, with what you're doing here, and one of the things I wanted to talk about is how do you get people on the same page, like when utilizing these, like this, your program, so they feel like they're more engaged versus disengaged, and they don't feel like, oh God, this is like just another thing I got to do, but yet it's something that's going to really help cut their time in half. It's going to make them be more efficient, but getting them to kind of see that up front rather than from the back end.
Yeah, I mean, change management is certainly a thing that is important with any type of project, and certainly this one where, again, people have this kind of feeling that it's just kind of extra work. Yeah, I got to take this training because I got to check the box because the company needs it, but really, is it benefiting me? So it's about kind of identifying, in most organizations there will be those kind of handful of champions that kind of do see the light from the beginning. So it's about really kind of engaging with those people, identifying those people, yeah. Again, not everyone's going to love it at the beginning. Not everyone's going to love it near the end, right? Like there's going to be some challenges there for sure, because it is a change. It often is kind of different. Most of the time when we're coming into an organization, even if they're an organization that already has a training program in place, the fact that it's a new piece of software, it is a change. As easy as we try and make it, that it's still a change. And in my experience, people don't love change, right? So it is about kind of using those kind of those change management principles to get people to buy in, show them the value, show them why it's going to be in the long term a benefit for them, not just the company, right? If you go into it saying, hey, this is just some extra work you have to do and there's really no benefit to you, good luck. That's not going to be very much fun. So it is about making sure that there's truly value to those employees, and value beyond just like, hey, this is part of your job, now you have to do it.
So true. Hope everybody is getting a lot of value. I know I am. This is really, really great information, and why this is so important. I guess it'll lead to the next kind of piggyback where you had left off, like, because so many organizations a lot of times overcomplicate training. Like you said, sometimes it's just to check a box, or they don't want to. They feel like it's going to take too long, for people to understand it, and it's going to eat up a lot of their time. So they tend to take shortcuts. Are there any suggestions that you could provide with, simplifying learning through your approach, and how it doesn't have to be overcomplicated?
Yeah. I find kind of the big piece is it really comes from the perspective of the people who are spearheading the project. So the kind of the training initiative. It can be difficult to make it fun, but I mean, you got to come to an approach of like, hey, we want to make this so that it's as enjoyable as possible, right?
Yeah.
We kind of mentioned a couple times the checking the box. That might have been the reason that we got started on this. Hey, like the government has said we must do this thing, or our industry has said we must do this thing.
Yeah.
That may have been the reason that it started. But let's look kind of beyond that, and let's look at how do we actually make this so that that is again as fun as we can possibly make it. So our system is primarily focused on what's known as self-paced learning. So that's like, hey, here's the course, you can take it kind of at your own pace. It's typically a bunch of videos, and there might be some quizzes and that sort of thing. If that's the only training that you're doing, if you're not if you're not doing so, whether it's kind of in-person thing or some instructor led, you got to kind of mix it up, right? If it's just, hey, go watch this 2-day long video, yeah, it's not going to be a whole lot of fun all the time, right? So mix it up, and talk with the people who have to get the training. Find out what there's so many different learning styles out there. My wife is a teacher. She gets to deal with the education system, and she's taught everything from like kindergarten all the way up to grade 12, right? And it's like in a class of 30 kids, you've got about probably 28 different learning styles. So it's about engaging with the people who are taking the training, not from on high saying, here's the course, go take it. If you're going to do that, you're probably going to have limited success.
Yeah, that's true. So you gotta be adaptable and always bring it back to, hey, if this is going to allow me to be more efficient, more productive, it's going to, in this case, make me stand out, just because, even on a personal level, then why not? And it doesn't have to be like you said, like where I got to spend one full day in doing this. It's something that again could be at your pace and dripped over a period of time. I love that. Great information there. And so in this case, a lot of times, when it comes to, I guess the term is time management. We could always get better at managing our time, but if we don't value our time, how can we possibly manage it? Because we're going to be managing distractions. How can this also play a part in helping make that more efficient?
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, I feel like I spend half my day, assisting whether it's myself or others with like how do we properly manage our time. Like
Yeah.
uh, and especially kind of in the IT industry, you could spend your whole day in meetings. I know I've taken some steps in the last couple of years to kind of block off specific times, because if I didn't block off specific times to actually get I'll say my real work done, my whole day would just be meetings. It literally would just be meetings. I know one of the tools that I love is Calendly, so I'm able to send out links to people and say, hey, you can book any time, and here's my calendar, and if it's available, just book it. We're kind of a unique time zone here in Canada, so that can make sending that email about, well, when are you available? Well, I'm available at this time, and that can be super challenging. So I use a tool like Calendly, but I still need to block things off because, again, every single second of my 9 to 5 regular day would be booked in with a meeting, right? So certainly that is something that is near and dear to my heart. Again, when it comes to the training, the fact that our project is kind of built within all those extra tools should help, hopefully, whether it's kind of within Teams or within Outlook, should help kind of keep it within that whole ecosystem. When it's something that's kind of outside of that ecosystem, it can be, it can be an afterthought. It can be something that's kind of difficult to keep on track. I know one of the things that I'm a big believer in is kind of the whole idea of context switching. And it's like, hey, I get this thing that's for 5 minutes, I do this thing for 5 minutes, and it's like I'm just not effective if I'm much better off kind of focusing. And I know that kind of all the things being within that same environment can really help me kind of avoid all that switching and all that sort of stuff. So I think that's a big help as well.
Wow, that's fabulous. And if you could share just briefly, because I know we won't have time to go into all of it, but just to kind of give a little taste to everybody listening with your ecLearn, like how, again, like maybe just a rough outline of what that addresses, for organizations to help them in this area.
Sure, yeah. So ecLearn's a learning management system built directly within Microsoft's Power Platform. And so learning management systems are systems that allow users to take courses. Again, ours is focused on self-paced courses. So that's ones where your users are logging in and they're essentially going through, whether it's kind of a PowerPoint type presentation or they're going through videos, consuming the content. The alternative to that would be instructor led. So you can think of that as like, hey, I actually have an instructor. I got to sit there and watch them teach, and then I submit assignments, that sort of thing. So our thing is certainly much more focused on the self-paced learning, and again is built right into that Power Platform. So you're able to leverage things like Power Automate, which is a workflow engine. So you can do things like, hey, this person completed this course. They got to do it every year. It's been 11 months since they completed it. Let's send them an email so you can kind of build all those types of workflows. We also have built our own course authoring tool. So lots of learning management systems will be kind of essentially the player of the course. You have the course and you're giving the people the opportunity to consume or take the course. We've also built a basic course authoring tool so you can actually build the courses within our tool, or you can import them using any kind of the standard kind of e-learning formats, SCORM, Tin Can, XAPI, some of those kind of standard formats. So essentially what you can do is you can import or create your own courses, deliver those to internal or external users, and have all of that data in the same systems where all of the rest of your business data is.
Wow. Wow. Great, great, great insights. And we hope everybody that you go back and listen to this episode again. Just a lot of great information. And we're going to encourage everybody to also connect with Nicholas as well, because there's, a lot of information that he can possibly share with you on an individual level. And again, that can maybe share some insights, how to make you more efficient. So with that being said, Nicholas, I know we're towards the end of the show, and I wanted to first thank you personally for taking the time as well, not only for myself, but the rest of the team here at Sustainable Success to be here. But I wanted to give you the opportunity to let the listeners know, how can they get in contact with you? What are you up to, and anything that you'd like to share or provide them?
Sure. Yeah. If anyone wants to reach out to me and connect with me on LinkedIn, you can do that. You can find our ecLearn website at eclearn.app, or you can find us at engineeredcode.com. And you can find out kind of all of our social media channels there. We're pretty active in terms of, we have our YouTube channel. I have a podcast, all of it focused on my experience with Power Pages, which is kind of a nice hometown story. It was a company that built up a piece of software here in kind of small town Canada that Microsoft bought about 11 years ago. And so that's kind of been the foundation of my business, has been working on that particular piece of software. Just connect with me on LinkedIn. Always happy to chat with people about whether it's Power Pages, Power Platform, or ecLearn.
Excellent. And again, we encourage everybody, all that information also will be in the show notes as well. That would be across all the platforms you can access the show on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, as well as iHeart, and of course, at our Facebook page at Sustainable Success 2017. Thank you so much, Nicholas, for being here. We appreciate you sharing your insights and wisdom with us today.
Thanks again so much for having me.
Thank you. And listeners, we want to thank you each and every week joining us here at Sustainable Success. Again, we are committed to bringing in subject matter experts like Nicholas in each and every week to help elevate you and your level of success to the next level. If you'd like some more information about a content that we've not covered on the show, feel free to reach out to our team here at chris@sustainablesuccess.net. Till then, everybody, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next Friday, same time. Take care.